This week on Men Don't Talk.
I do like extreme diets where I'll be like on 4 shakes a day and do that for a year. Do you know what I mean? And then
So is this the masturbation? 4 shakes a day?
Something like that. Yeah. You get a boner in the classroom. Like some certain things are just not your fault.
And they don't see that the way to sort it is by cutting right down. And like you said before, that'd be the part psychological element for me.
I've been there, Paddy. Yeah, it's a really good point. I've been there. I'd admit to that. I'd suffered erectile dysfunction. I developed a habit of going to bed every night with my laptop, watching some comedy or whatever, watching porn, waking up in the morning feeling like, oh, I'm fresh again. Watch porn at the start of the morning and crack on. So it was never like an addiction of like, crack on.
9+ inch, cock bearing Adonis. Do you know what I mean? And it's like those are the things that over time I think really do affect people.
I've always thought, why are the penises so small on porn? I don't know what you mean, to be honest.
You can imagine though. You can imagine though. If you're like
bigger TV, Andy.
Got it in his hand and then passed out. And the other workers come back from their pissed up night, open the door. He's lay there holding his lad naked with toilet paper all around it.
Oh no.
Right, okay, welcome to another episode of Men Don't Talk. We've got myself, Andy Peregrine, we've got Dalu and Paddy, and we've got Paddy Newman in the room. We are a 3, so we've got a blank box this week, but never fear, we'll have a guest next week. But we're on a subject. Probably the reason why we've got a blank box is we're going to talk about a subject not a lot of guys want to talk openly about. We're going to talk about what Cockneys might call the old Johnny Vaughan, the old pornography. What's that? Yeah, so that's a clip I might have shared on our group earlier today. Speaking of that, it's enough. Yeah, we all get some of those. I've heard some horror stories of those. Has anyone heard any horror stories at work? Adam, who was on the pod a few weeks ago, said there was a guy that got taken into the office or something. I think he was in the canteen and he's just watching a video and then it's the Has anyone opened them up?
Everyone's seen the church clip, haven't they?
Yeah.
The fella sitting there and he just opens it up and bump and you're like, but funnily enough, what made me laugh about that is how many people actually giggled. So how many people have actually had a clip like that?
Yeah.
So
good for you.
I reckon if you get sacked for something like that, then you'd be pretty unlucky because even the bosses and everything, everyone's opened a message, haven't they? They don't know what's on it.
You should probably apologise to the podcast listeners in case this is in their car right now.
Yeah,
true. Yeah.
A bit late, but
So on today's episode, I've not been doing any good intros. We're going to be talking about porn. We're going to be talking about. So I've been on to the first, lazy, but the first bit I saw on a website was from GQ. So it's definitely good journalistic material. But they were talking about a study that was done by NoFap. So there's a NoFap group on Reddit, and NoFap, basically they believe in not watching pornography, but also abstaining from masturbation as well. Which some people might see as a bit extreme.
Would you believe I've done that for 3 months?
For 3 months?
Yeah.
Right, let's just go straight there. Let's go straight there. Come on. Why? When? How?
Well, I think that's the reason for the topic tonight, mate. It just, I think it's just porn's chaotic at the moment, isn't it? It's I've grown up with it, but it's not been a major part of my life. But I know there was a point where I'm looking around at my mates and I'm like, bloody hell, like you watch a lot of porn, and then a lot of them were saying like they'd rather watch porn than actually be with their missus, and that crossed the line for me. So I was just like, I just wanted to test myself and just said, oh, let me give a week without it, a couple of weeks, and then when you actually do come to actually having it naturally, it feels a lot better because you've
3 months. So that's from porn and from masturbation. Abstained, yeah. No stains from porn or masturbation.
Abscond is what the kids do when they get out the van.
It was one part of it was just wanted to see if I could test myself. It was in the build up of me getting married, and it was just like.
I know it's the wrong subject to laugh at, but I'm sorry, mate. You can't when you're testing yourself.
Come again?
I know. Right, go. Sorry, now I'll behave now.
Right, go on. No, we're staying live.
Yeah,
go on.
Okay. Bloody hell, yeah. So yeah, basically, I was getting married. It was in the process where I was born again, so I was trying to just kind of filter out some naughty stuff, and it's just one battle I didn't realize I had. Do you know what I mean? It was just like it was normal. Do you know what I mean? Even now to this day, where as guys we generally talk about porn. It's a normal part of society. It has been since I've grown up, and sex is a big reason why we're all here. But pornography is a slightly different thingy now, I guess. And the benefits of it came down to actually me going on YouTube and looking at the guys that you've just mentioned there, Andy, and that No Frap or No Fap, and they just talk about the benefits. And I did find my brain activity stronger. I felt stronger. You hear boxers talk about it all the time, that they abstain for a couple of months in training and stuff. So it was just wanted to kind of see it. I can say it certainly does work, but I'm also a bit of a naughty Essex boy as well. So there's certain things I still like and stuff. So I guess it's a battle, but I know it causes a lot of friction in relationships. Are you still there? We're still on?
Yeah.
So it just causes a lot of issues in relationships for people. I've heard people say that they can't get erections because they watch too much porn, and in my head I'm thinking, stop watching it then. But it's because it's an instant, it's microwave pleasures in it that we all have now in society. I think porn now taps a lot into that. I guess it's interesting to see how it affects mental health, relationships, what the new generation's impression of sex is. Do you know what I mean? Like, at least we at 35, I still believe, have an idea of romance and pleasure and foreplay, and for some of us 12 play and all sorts. But it's like nowadays, like with porn, it's so graphic and violent and in certain areas, and you just think, bloody hell, like, what's it going to be like for the new generations to come? But I guess the elder generations probably thought that about us growing up.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of that I can associate with. Yeah, I guess what sounds to me quite big in that is 3 months. 3 months is that's quite a stint, isn't it? That's not like a couple of weeks, see what happens. It was a full 3 months then, was it?
Yeah. But I'm a weird guy. I'm a bit of an extremist sometimes. Like, I can't lose weight balanced and maintain. I do like extreme diets where I'll be like on 4 shakes a day and do that for a year. Do you know what I mean? And then
so is this the masturbation, 4 shakes a day?
Something like that. It didn't really thingy, but at the time it was like, it's more than just a physical thing. Do you know what I mean? Like I was praying, I was meditating. So you end up not thinking about it as much as you think you would. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like when you have a lot of sex, if you're in a good, healthy sexual relationship with your partner, you don't have that same look at her. It's because
Do you not? Is that what
you're
it's
relaxed,
like?
you're calm. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. But you're relaxed, you're calm because you're both satisfied. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's. I forgot what my first initial point was,
No,
but
no.
yeah.
You said about being an extreme person that got.
Yeah, so that 3 months wasn't long. Like if you look at it, it's been the spout of lockdown.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think why I really chose that 3 month period is because in behavior studies they talk about if you can do something consistently for 90 days, effectively 3 months, you can create a new habit or a new form of behavior.
Yeah.
And I think that was it really.
Interesting that. So did that going through that? Did that actually change anything the way you are now? Your habits with anything now or not?
Yeah, this show was definitely not supposed to be about me, but I will be honest. You know, men don't talk, so we have to talk. But in my life, I've had a high sex drive, so I think a lot of it helped in a lot of self-reflection, self-analysis, really just understanding, you know, why I do and accepting the you know the person who I am, really. But I think sometimes when you just can dwell in the pleasure dome of it without kind of reflecting back and having a pause, it's a bit like, you know, an athlete doesn't continually train without seeing the progression of what he's training for. So it's like sometimes, you know, if people tell you that, you know, giving up porn for a bit and not wanking or not masturbating, should I say, can be healthy for the body as well as the mind. You know, just give it a try. It won't harm you.
The other question I get, during that period then, did you have a missus? Yeah.
Yeah,
You had a partner.
Man.
So there was release. There was release. Please.
Well, it was an element of two things because we were both Christians, so we had a bit of that thing like, okay, we've lived together. We were doing things before marriage that maybe we shouldn't. So we said, like, before we do get married, let's at least, you know, try the process of staying celibate. And like when I looked at ways and methods, because as a bloke, when you hear that and you agree to it because you're trying to be nice and sensitive husband, you're like, how am I going to cope here? Do you know what I mean? 4 days and I'm going crazy. And then like you just think, okay, you know, somewhere someone is doing it. You know, I've been spoiled, so like 3 or 4 days for me is like a oh my god, I start getting all in my emotions. Well, I know some people that you know you work with or you come across and they'll tell you, oh, me and my partner have not touched each other for 3 months, for 6 months, for a year.
Yeah.
But then when you speak to the guy, he's on porn every day. So his drive has not gone, but why is he going to the instant gratification of porn rather than actually going to his partner? Where they actually, do you know what I mean? And that was that. I think that's when you look at psychology, it's all interesting. So it's like my only worry with porn is like the depiction of how it's going to now. Do you know what I mean? It's going very dark at the moment, man.
Yeah, I think there's a very different thing from an age perspective, isn't there? I mean, you're slightly younger than me, but I didn't grow up with internet pornography. But my kids obviously will grow up in that world of being able to access that kind of stuff. So my earliest kind of experiences with pornography were actually, I was lazy with it. I wasn't into it. I wasn't really kind of that bothered in some ways, although it was, because like you, I think I'm someone with quite a high sex drive and stuff. But to get pornography in my day, you know, like Paddy's going to jump in a minute and go, shut up, you. But even in my day, you had to go and get a magazine from an SO garage or whatever. You know, that was a completely different experience than probably even kids that have got what. There's parents probably listening that are going, oh, my kids don't watch it because I've got it locked and all this kind of stuff. They'll find a way around it. You know, I'm looking through some of these stats and I'll go through them in a minute, but some people saying under 12-year-old, you know, they started watching pornography. And I'm sure that's the case for many people. And that's scary. But from an age perspective, it's a totally different thing, isn't it? Like, Paddy, when you grew up, what was that experience? Was it similar to mine? It was with dirty mags, and that was about it. Was that it? A few videos.
No, there used to be. He used to go to the circus, and that, and he'd have like a 1 penny thing behind the curtain, and you just turn it. I'm not that old. They're in black and white.
Didn't exist back then.
Just to move. But no, it was the same. Yeah, it was you just if you like you I don't know, you'd find it being like the glove compartment of the car. I remember that my dad. I shouldn't say it really, but you know, with my dad's Skoda, he had one, and I was just because he'd said to me that get something. So he gets out, goes in the car. I'm looking for it. Boom, open the glovey. There it was. I was like in the car for about an hour. So, just looking at these, but you know what? It was funnily enough. I mean, the pictures one thing and that, and it was actually just seeing that you're just like wow. But it was like reading it as well, reading the stories as opposed to like that. There was that sort of thing where you're thinking about it, and it was just I must have read it about 50 times. He had that in his movie for a while. So anyway.
With the bits of the story you couldn't make out because there's a few just bits on there.
Now, it stayed in remarkably good condition, all things considered. And then one day it wasn't there. So that was it. It was like, but like yourself, and Peter Kay talks about it, doesn't he? When your old the VHS come out, and all of a sudden you always knew a video company that, you know, one of the old little corner shops, and there's always someone that give you one over the counter. You know, bring it back next day. There's a queue, and so you just put it on, and that'd be it. But it was, you know, you'd have to make sure that everyone was out. It was, but again, it was just because it was more like it was just because you hadn't seen it. It was a curiosity.
Yeah.
Because you hadn't seen it, and it was something that you wouldn't see. It's not something that was like you walk past somewhere and happen to see it happening. Now you could be, if you're on the wrong, you could, hypothetically speaking, like you say, be somewhere in a shop, press a button in someone's phone, and all of a sudden these noises like we heard before come bouncing out. It's changed that much, so it was more a curiosity than anything else. But that's then, like you say, social media just changed everything. Complete game changer. So
yeah. And I guess it's always been about in that way, but it is, to me, it's the access to it straight away. So I'll go into my side of it a little bit. So it was never a thing that I would kind of do. Now, if those videos were there, I'm sure I would have watched them over and over again because I had that curiosity, because I didn't even, you know, I had like even kissed a few girls when I was in my teens and everything. So it was like, what the hell do I do? What's it going to be like? When am I going to lose it? Somebody touch it. So I was like, I would have watched it all. I would have watched, if there was a video library and it was just me, but I was too ashamed to ever go to one of those video shops porn. I would have been way too ashamed for any of that. And my brother maybe would get an occasional magazine or something like that, and I remember something like that. But I remember like my first experience of things like that were like, do you remember like the Index catalogue or the Next catalogue or whatever they were at the time, and they'd have the lingerie and they'd sell the lingerie? My first experiences of seeing things like that was like, oh, there's lingerie pages. Oh, you know, like some of them were see-through, and that was like bloody hell. Like whoa.
Carry On films.
Yeah.
Benny Hill.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when you look at yeah.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, funny you should say that, because that's like you say. There's one thing. The Carry On films were literally, you know, wasn't it be like Sid James? When like God love her, Paul Barber used to walk out. We walk past with whatever she was wearing, and you'd see the fellas actually go, whoa, and you think I'm looking back on it now. I mean,
oh God, yeah.
It's just, but that's what we grew up on. That was funny, seen as funny.
Yeah, it was soft porn as well. That really, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was the attitude.
I guess from that I had a relationship where I didn't really experience it that much, and when the internet kicked off and streaming kicked off, and you could sit in your bedroom and you're on your own in your own shame and download whatever you wanted, that was like whoa. And also because I was such a screwed up, weird little virgin child, I developed a little bit of a fixation, which it was never really extreme. I was never like stalking or blah, 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 but a little bit of a fixation, I think, with celebrities. So, seeing celebrities naked and all that kind of stuff. So things like the early fappenings where it was like Pamela Anderson's first sex tape and all things like that. I mean, they were kind of things that, I was downloading in my youth and watching and going, gee, like finding out about all this stuff. And I definitely am dead interested in yours, Dalu, because I think I absconded for a few times and thought, I'm watching this too much or whatever. But during various relationships, I found that it certainly affected my sex drive. It affected my brain. It affected the way I was sexually watching porn. And I think, like some people, a lot of people that I've spoken to about this, because there's a few guys that I do speak to, I'm pretty open the way I talk about it. And one of the things definitely that I would say that's kind of helped and would have helped me when I was single is that thing of don't take your phone to the bedroom. And maybe I would have done it anyway or whatever, but I developed a habit of going to bed every night with my laptop, watching some comedy or whatever, watching porn, waking up in the morning feeling like, I'm fresh again, watch porn at the start of the morning and crack on. So it was never like an addiction of like, crack on, crack one on. But it was never like an addiction where I was missing the bus or I was missing work or I was doing it at work and I got caught or, you know what I mean? It was never to that extremity where it was like taking over my life. But it
becomes a routine, right?
Oh, but yeah, proper habit. The word that you said there about habit, it becomes a real habit.
Of the watching or the act?
The watching and the act. Yeah, right. Watching and the act.
Yeah, the two don't work without each other.
Well,
only if you've got like a good imagination.
Well, isn't that interesting that you say that? It's interesting, isn't it? Because you think the way you're talking about it, you think there was that for generations that people just did it. It was part of it as a young lad, and even as a young girl growing up. It was just you'd have to get it from somewhere. If you didn't, you had to think either your body urged it or you had to think about it. You had to get it from somewhere who you saw. It was not. It was different. So it's not about that urge is still there. It's completely separate. I know you were talking about the boxing because the boxing's one of those, isn't it? That's they're not on whatever channel. I was gonna say YouTube. I don't know. But they're not on particular channels or anything like that looking at it. That's obviously a feeling that they've got with a partner or whatever it is. So, I don't know. It's that differentiate between the two. There was a great thing, in Viz years and years ago. And I remember, because I used to get Viz all the time, and I remembered laughing at it because one of the stories was a comic strip of a fella. And all the time he was waiting for his wife to go out. He used to do all sorts of stuff. Like he'd do send her here, send her there, and he used to go like get a toy out, and that was the whole purpose. And it was quite sad really, because obviously when you think what he was doing, he was sending his wife to bed. She'd put all the gear on, and he'd be like, "Oh, not tonight. I've got a headache." And then he'd go under the stairs and have a sex doll, and you could see clearly. And that was the joke. And you just think to yourself, but that actually, as you said before, you're both describing it perfectly. That's what. You get your brain is like sort of what's going on here. That is an addiction to something that's not real.
Yeah.
The amount of people, and I don't know about yourself, Paddy, but we've worked in quite female-dominated industry, shall we say, or sectors, and like the running trait for me the last 6 years is PlayStation, Xbox. Like, he would rather play on the Xbox for 4 hours than even touch me. And you're like, geez, like, what? Like, yeah.
So you get endorphins from that kind of stuff as well, though. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's an overlap there, and I won't go too far into it. But my kids are now starting to cope with mild addiction. And there's no doubt in my mind that it's addictive. And they're playing Fortnite. They're nearly 10 years old and they're kind of playing Fortnite, these kids, and they're addicted to it, mildly addicted to it. So we limit the time. We put a structure in place where they have to do laps and run laps around the block to do exercise, and they earn some more minutes and blah, blah, blah. But in positions where you don't necessarily have any structure and they're let to play it as much as they possibly want, you can totally see how they're getting properly addicted to it. Because computer games like that, in the same kind of way that porn's, I'm sure, designed, is it's reward straight away, isn't it? What you're looking for. And one of the things I remember, so I'll continue my story a little bit. So I didn't get to that then. So during a previous relationship, a previous partner of mine said, I think you're addicted to pornography, blah, 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 blah. You need to go and see this, this and that. And I went to see a sex counselor, basically. I was just interested as well, because I just thought, I did have a bad relationship with porn at one stage and blah, blah, blah. I didn't think I was addicted, but I was prepared, like I am kind of now, I guess, to be totally honest with someone. And I was always interested in psychology. So I thought, all right, yeah, there's no harm can come from me talking to someone about it and finding out about it. So I went to see a sex counselor. It was only for 2 sessions, I think. And she basically, long story short, said to me, you have got a habit. She'll say, I'll describe addiction to you. So addiction to her from a clinical perspective was, I've lost my job because I was watching porn. I've lost my relationship because I was watching porn. I missed the bus yesterday. This has taken and consumed my life so that normal kind of factors and experiences don't exist or have been damaged because of this. And saying, yeah, it may have damaged your relationship a bit or whatever, but it sounds like there were other issues to do with that relationship. And also, she just thought it basically is a habit. She was saying, you've got a habit. What you've said to me is you've tried to quit a few times and you don't feel good about it when you do it, but it's a habit. It's not an addiction. It was certainly interesting. It was interesting, and it was.
I'm just laughing because as a comedian in my head, I've just got a sketch of like all the men in the world, like when they've had one and they do that. Oh, why did I do that? It's probably like the junkie when he's had the heroin, had the pleasure, and be like, "Oh,
yeah." Yeah, well, one of the facts on here said and it's GQ, so take it with a pinch of salt, but they were saying that the report and the study scanned the brain of users of pornography, and it was saying the same pleasure sensors were hit from the use of drugs as using the pornography. And it also said, one bit I was reading also said that they were looking at the pleasure sensors and stuff like that within the brain. And it was not just the act of the orgasm, it's the hunting the clip. What's the clip I want to use? Oh, yeah, I'll go in that category. I'll find that thing. And it's that, whoa, yeah, I know how to work this and blah, blah, blah. And those pleasure sensors are starting to hit like that. Like it is madness. But yeah. And I've certainly moderated. Well, the reason I asked with yours, Dalu, as well about that 3-month stint is I've moderated my behavior massively. Due to kind of facing up to the fact that it's not good in some ways, everything in moderation for me. And the metaphor, I guess, I'll come back to there about Fortnite is that my missus' view is just delete it, get rid of it, just fucking get rid of it. They've been dicks because of Fortnite. And I get that, but my view is that they're not young adults, they're only 10 years old, but there's going to be a lot of challenges for them in their life of things that want their attention, of things that they could get addicted to, of things that want to grab them, of things that want to take over them. And it's important for me that they learn that lesson of, all right, take your reward, but only after you've done some laps around the block and you've done your exercise or you've done your work for the day or whatever. Don't sit there and stew on it, because that is reward. And that's like eating a box of chocolates and you just feel sick at the end of it. But for me, if you've been to the gym, fucking hell, go and have a steak like you did tonight, Dalu, or some chocolate or whatever you want to do. Reward yourself. I think that's a good thing. But if it's too much, it starts to take over, doesn't it?
Indeed. Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. And I think that's the one thing I do worry about, because and I feel like I'm an old man now, but it's like you go into places, bars or whatever, and you don't see like young guys talking to women or vice versa. People are on their phones.
Doesn't happen.
And there's like this instant, gratification of like a Tinder swipe. You meet someone, you go to the hotel, do it, and then that's it. So there's no longer that kind of social interaction, that advancing your personality, trying to have to be charming, trying to have to. Do you know what I mean? And maybe it works for people because it is instant gratification, but there's no life in it. Do you know what I mean?
No, I hear you there. But I think it does still exist. So Deck, who's been on this one before, this podcast before, he still goes out and doesn't tend to use the social media stuff as much, the internet dating stuff as much. He finds it to be a bit empty and likes to just go out and talk to people and stuff. But I've also got a mate who's got, I don't know what he's about, 23-year-old or something like now, but he was about 19, obviously 4 years ago. And we were out boozing back in town where we come from in Glossop, and we were going, oh, I bet your lad, I bet he's out now in bloody Harleys, isn't he, doing shots and dancing with girls and, trying to get the numbers. And he's like, no, doesn't exist anymore, mate. He's like, that culture doesn't exist anymore of going out, going absolutely smashed, getting pissed enough to dance and trying to get off with a girl and trying to get a number. He was like, that stuff's gone. He said he's just... They'll meet someone on the internet. They'll have a good chat with them. They might go and
if that though, just literally just say, "Oh, lads, you just stay in and play the Xbox."
Yeah, but
there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. As you said, it's about balance. When it becomes an addiction, that you start. I forgot the word, but yeah, if you're neglecting your partner, whether it's male or female. Or in between, it's there's an element of that neglect, and I think that's where porn comes into it as well. It's like, if you've knocked out 2 in the day, are you really going to give the best to your missus on the 3rd?
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Like, shouldn't she be getting the first 2, and then like porn should be like the safety net? And I hate to speak so like basic about it, but. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I think
I get that. I get that.
The flip side is gone, man. Yeah.
Going back to what you said before. I disagree. I don't think that is the case. If people were not doing that anymore, you wouldn't have your Geordie Shores, you wouldn't have your Mortals, you wouldn't have your this, you wouldn't have your that. So it definitely is still happening.
It does still happen.
But the other thing is what's the difference? At my age, when you say, oh well, but when you're over 50. The best, most of the time when you're out on a Saturday, the most important time on a Saturday was the last 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Because if it's starting to slow down, then exactly, that's it, Dalu. Because you've got one thing and one thing only on your mind. You've had a great night with the lads, and now all of a sudden, and any conversation. And it's a two-way street, obviously, because if someone wants to meet you, they want to meet you as well. And it's that's the way it was. And people talk about the romance, but it wasn't he was just young, and that's what he did. So what's the difference? The difference between that and flipping across? Well,
neither. For me, neither's good or necessarily bad, but there is an argument, like he was saying with his son. He was saying he thinks that's a better way in some ways, because he's meeting someone on social media, but he's chatting to them. They've seen if they've got the same interests. They've seen if they're into the same stuff. They go on a date. They'll have a good chat, and then they might have sex or whatever. It might last. It might not. But in a way, he's saying that's better than just getting completely rat-arsed, looking your worst, her being completely rat-arsed, trying to get the number, trying to call him the next day, seeing what happens. You can't remember what the other person looked like or ever, at all. And you're all just out on the pull, and, you should have been just chatting. He says he just goes out. He's probably had sex with a girl. He might chat to her a bit. He might keep seeing her. He might not. And then he goes for a good drink with his mates. But it's not all about pull. But... that's different to my days. I was like, somebody, please.
Yeah. I think, go on, sorry.
No, just go on. You finish off and I'll have a look at these stats and we'll drill.
I was literally going to ask you, like, how do you feel about it? Because, like, one of the things, you've got 4 boys, do you know what I mean? So they're, pardon the pun, but they're going to come across porn at some stage in their life.
Yeah. I mean, the scary thing as well, looking at that, if they're nearly 10, it sends a shiver down my spine, but there's a possibility they've already seen something. It's possible. Do you know what I mean? I know those urges have started to come out in some way. The first couple of times they've started to say this year, like, a few jokey remarks that are a bit over the top, like, oh, what if this, or, what if she fell over? And there was just a few things, so, like a little bit borderline sexual. And I was like, ooh, guys, don't. But then you realise, it starts. It is a ticking time bomb, isn't it, really? I feel pretty apprehensive about it, to be honest. I don't want them to fall into the same kind of trap and habits that I used to do, but I think it's difficult to stop it. I think it's really difficult to stop it. I know the government looked at schemes of trying to stop the providers, and you had to go to a news agent and give ID if you wanted to watch it and all this lot. But kids will find a way through all that crap. They'll get a VPN server or whatever it is, and they can get in, or the dark web or whatever. I'm sure they'll find a route onto it. Yeah, it's just hard, isn't it? I don't know. I don't know what I feel about it. Right, are we up for a few stats from this survey? See what we think.
Yeah, crack on.
Yeah. So again, this is the Reddit community called NoFap, apparently, that have done some studies, and these are some of the. It's just a little top 10. Let's drill through these. So arousal declined for the same mate, and the explanation of that was that a lot of the guys admitted that regular use of pornography diminished their arousal for having the same mate. So whether they did have the same partner at the time or whether they were with different partners, I think essentially what that means is that they were admitting that pornography made them open to visually sexually stimulated by different flavors, a different girl, a different this, a different that, different experience, different time, that kind of stuff. And I can associate with that stuff.
Our stimulation is visual, isn't it? So that's
yeah.
If you're looking at a Brazilian 25-year-old in red lingerie, and then
25-year-old with a Brazilian,
and then like your partner gets home from a hard day's work, and she's hard pressed and as not. Do you know what I mean? Then you start equating that in your head, and it's all those little psychological things that do affect people in relationships. So yeah, I do believe that stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. Because I would say, if there are any things we admit to without getting told off from our missus watching this, but from a porn perspective, the habits.
We don't know our missuses don't watch this.
Right. Yeah, my missus stopped watching it ages ago, to be fair, but just in case. People watching porn, I'm not going to say guys, but I would say mostly people watching porn probably don't hardly ever watch the same video twice. It's something new, something fresh every time, isn't it? Do we agree or not? That's my experience. Let's find something else, find something different. Or do we guys, you might have used pornography at one stage in your life, you never know. Would you care to comment on that? Is it always a different video that would stimulate you?
Well, we had the same magazine in the glove compartment for a year, so.
If Paddy's missus is checking this, don't ever go in the glove box.
Hey, listen, it was over 40 years ago. I think the skull has been crushed now. I don't think there's anything left of it.
Right,
I'm not going to incriminate myself any further.
No comment. Right.
Allegedly, through research and conversations that I've diligently studied through various stag do's and lads chats, I believe there are two categories, Andy. The first one is you pick until you find the right thing. It's like the right sweet, yeah? Okay? But then if you're going in for again, you have to pick a better sweet, maybe something with a bit of sugar on top. And then if you're going again, it has to be something with a bit of a tang fantastic or with a bit of sherbet with it as well. So then, like, it works the same with pornography, I think, for some gentlemen out there. I think some, I never understood it when guys would pay 25 quid for, like, the same disc. And, like, do you know what I mean? Or call, like, a sex line and things like that. So there's different elements of porn and sexual stuff. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. There's lots of different layers of what people are into, I'm sure. Yeah. I find it quite fascinating, to be honest. But yeah.
Mate, years ago, when I worked Saturdays, I'm not going to say, but my mate used to stay in ours. We'd go out, so I wouldn't drink, but he'd drink, so he'd stay in ours, and I'd drop him off in the morning, so I'd be up early. Anyway, I remember getting up, so he stayed downstairs. I remember getting up, and I was ready and everything, all my uniform and all this sort of stuff to go out, and I'm like, what's that noise? And he woke up and he went, shit, and he picked the phone up and put it down. I was in bed, he died like a smutty line. and fell asleep. I left it on the call. I was like, that. Oh, you're going to pay for that. You're pay for it. You're no better. Oh, God, I tell you what.
I had I'm going to say a friend of a friend, right? Friend of a friend works away basically with his uncle, right? This is the story. I'm sure it's true as well. Works away with his uncle and a few of the lads, manual labour type job, right? He says, I'll get pissed tonight, but I'm not into it. I'm going back to the hotel room. They're all sleeping in this big fucking hotel room, right? So he goes back, puts some Johnny Vaughan on, and he's pissed as well, lies naked on the bed, and for no reason known to me other than ease of cleanse, he's covered round himself with toilet roll. So he's like covered round himself with it, right? Got it in his hand and then passed out. And then his uncle and the other workers come back from their pissed up night, open the door. He's lay there holding his lad naked with toilet paper all around it.
Oh no. Oh.
I can't. I'm sure we could all tell the story. I have got a great one. I'm not going to say it, so because it's just going to steer away from a very important subject. But it is an absolutely cracking story.
Just do it.
No, it's not. We're in a good conversation here. Maybe we'll do it. We'll revisit it another time. But anyway, yeah.
You have to subscribe, ladies and gentlemen, and Paddy's going to tell that one next week.
Yeah, it's worth it.
That's the lad.
Sound right. Let's move on to another fact.
Andy, what are the other stats?
Yeah. Okay. So, 20% of porn watchers said they felt controlled by their desires. It's not totally shocking that, I don't think necessarily, is it? So controlled by their desires. So what I'm taking from that is they felt maybe regular use of porn, they felt an element of loss of control maybe, or they gave up some control to it.
That's what you were saying before, though, wasn't it? About that you miss a bus because the urge to do something has overtaken that urge. Yeah.
12% report watching over 5 hours a week. 5 hours a week.
They must be single and in lockdown.
Oh, yeah. Well, you got to be single. I don't understand 5 hours a week. Wow. I mean, if that is you, no, I'm not judging, but that seems like a lot, doesn't it? To me.
Is it like that? Is it that scene in Family Guy when Quagmire comes out of the house and he's
Andy, if you like equate how long the average thing
takes. Session. Yeah. Release.
Did you see Ambulance the other week?
See what?
Ambulance on BBC.
No.
Have you not watched it? It's a wonderful programme. Honestly, they'll have you crying and all this lot. So it's set in Liverpool, Merseyside, and it's so some unbelievable stories. But I think it was the first time. It was on Celebrity Gogglebox they were talking about. And this fella rings up and he says, 999, do you need an ambulance? And he says, yeah. He said, I've got a terrible cut. And he said, where is it? He said, it's on my penis. And he said, how did you get it? He's like wanking. And they were like, how much must he have done?
Oh. Is that one of our 5 hours a week, guys?
Ambulance episode 1, BBC.
I'm going to watch it. 5 hours a week seems like a lot, doesn't it? That seems like a lot. Okay, another one. Almost 50% of no-faps had never had sex. So maybe part of religious reasons or whatever, we don't know, do we? But that's just part of the stats. That's not a big one to me, but just bearing in mind that a lot of the no-fap community are still virgins themselves. 42% of male college students watch porn regularly. The shocking one for me for that is that 58% of them are fucking liars. 16% of no-faps started watching it before the age of 12. And of the group of 12 to 14-year-olds, 53% said they had it as a regular habit. 12 to 14-year-olds.
I can. That's when your body's at that stage, isn't it?
Yeah. It is, yeah.
When you get a boner in the classroom, like certain things are just not your fault.
Yeah.
So come on, elaborate, Dalu.
Allegedly.
What did
No.
Mr. Brooks think of that? Stand to attention, Dalu.
I think there's not a teenage boy in the world that's not had an embarrassing boner between the ages of like 13 and 17. Like at some point in high school, you got one. I can put a bet on that. I'm £100. There's not a man that's listening to this and hasn't between the ages of 12 and 17 had a boner in high school by accident. How about that? That's how confident I am.
I'm telling you, I agree with you. It's just constant. You're just like that, sitting there at school trying to do your work, and you'll be like that.
As long as there are people at that high school, it's okay. As long as they're not loitering around the edge of it or a teacher or anything. But yeah, it's shocking, isn't it? Like, I guess it's not that shocking. We know all the kids are watching a lot of it and stuff. It's what's difficult, I think, is probably stopping it becoming a real regular habit. You know, because they lock that bedroom door. I'm sure when they get to teenager, they're entitled to their privacy. They're also entitled to have a phone. Does the technology yet exist where we can actually lock that down properly? I'm sure there are apps and parental apps and that are about, but one of my kids is a whiz on computers already. He just find a way around it, I'm sure.
It's like anything else, isn't it? They're going to find it. If it's not that way, it's through the mates.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can. It is what it is. It's just like you say. It's a losing battle. It's about you working with them about choices, what they're going to do, and what it is they're actually looking at.
Yeah, and the extremities of it. Yeah.
In terms of mental health, I think it does like work on both ways because like women have to then live up to this like expectation, this very high standard of expectation and sexual availability. Men have to then live up to this stamina-ridden, flipping 9+ inch, cock-bearing Adonis. Do you know what I mean? And it's like those are the things that over time I think really do affect people.
I've always thought, why are the penises so small on porn? I don't know what you mean, to be honest.
You can imagine though. You can imagine though. If you're like
bigger TV, Andy.
You can imagine body image wise for a teenage lad when you see something like that, and you can imagine how they would feel, sort of look, and you think, you'd be so shy then because you think if that's what you think the girls would be looking at, or it'd just be awful for you.
Yeah, all the blokes that are genuinely relieved when they hear the general average statistic of how long it actually is. You know what I mean? Compared to what you visually see everywhere. It's like... Yeah. I'm going to demonstrate.
Particularly, yeah.
You've got a pen in your hand, haven't you?
Things like that.
This is great for the audio version, showing people. No, it's a big concern that though, still for me. 4 boys, but what can we do? In a sexist kind of way, it makes me kind of thankful as well that I don't have girls, because in some ways, girls watch porn as well and all that, so I don't want to generalize, but I don't have the worry about teenage pregnancy. It's a bit of a different worry to boys watching porn. They might develop a bad habit and that kind of thing, but it's maybe an easier one to deal with in that regard, I guess. But right, another one. 64% admitted their tastes had become more extreme or deviant from use of pornography. Deviant.
Deviant's an interesting word.
I've got a weird conspiracy theory at the moment that I've really been tapping into. But if you look at porn over the generations, it's gone really extreme, hasn't it? Do you know what I mean?
You've been doing a study. I'm studying. Leave me alone. Sorry.
Like bloody kindergarten here. When it started, it used to be like all flipping pizza delivery boys, plumber, whatever, quite you know what I mean? Like high school settings or whatever setting it was a scene. But now you've got like these mass orgies, these weird and wonderful things to certain people. But like the one thing like that really freaks me out at the moment, mate, is the incest thing. Like there's a massive push in the porn industry about this whole stepbrother, stepmother, family incest thing, and then you start to think about who creates narratives and different things. This is not just a natural thing of supply and demand, mate. There's a reason why they're pushing these particular things. Do you know what I mean? So I that's the really thing that I find really kind of like I just step back and think it's gone. There's depravity. Do you know what I mean? To a certain degree, and I know taste comes into it, and maybe culture or degree of experience and openness. But you're talking incest here.
Yeah. I've noticed quite a few with like that kind of stuff over the years. It is a very, very strange, very strange thing, isn't it? Really, really strange.
It really is, mate. Really is, and then you think about the IT circles in Silicon Valley, and then you look at the major companies and who they actually the conglomerates who they work for, and then it all relates to people that partnership with people like Epstein. And then you think, where did all these agendas come from? They don't just appear. But anyway, I'm going to start going on different conspiracy flipping routes here. We're talking about pornography.
Now, have you watched The Deuce? I know you're a Wire man. The Deuce is David Simon. It's his latest one, and it's about, I think it's based in New York, and it's how certain ladies of the night, it's mainly based from I think, so prostitutes within New York, how it kicked off into starting video cameras and then the porn industry, and how the porn industry worked with pimps and how it changed very quickly, and really interesting drama. But I think that's a really interesting point. I'd never looked at it from the perspective of this is more than just people wanting that weird stuff. That's people pushing that weird stuff, and that is it.
You look at what most blokes think. It's a naked body. Do you know what I mean? We're not particularly that fussy. We're attracted to what we're attracted to, but the scene and the setting and the storyline really doesn't have a lot to play into it. The effect is the naked body, the bits of the parts that we want to see. So having that particular storyline of stepdaughter, stepdad, flipping your auntie, your grandma, it just freaks me out, man. And I just think, what's the agenda basically? Like I look at things now with that idea of what's the narrative, what is the perceived notion, because there's always think table, there's always people brainstorming and thinking of ideas. There's a crew that have worked behind that, a script that's been written. How many people do you know in your circle actually want to sleep with their sisters that would say, "Oh, I'm going to go down to this pawn shop to get it"?
Yeah, it's very odd, isn't it? I'm sure there's a lot of stories to tell. I'm sure, prostitution is the oldest profession, they say, and stuff like that. I'm sure there's always been some very, very strange tales within those walls of people that are into very, very weird, some people would say deprived, odd things. But the internet then is kind of like a hotbed for it as well, isn't it? I can totally associate with that when they're saying it's more extreme, because like you were saying at the start, it's a cake and then it's an iced cake and then it's a cake with decoration and then it's something else and something else. And, there's humor around that as well, I think, to some degree, because there's a friend of a friend, again, I remember saying that when he travels for work, and when he goes away, if he goes to Korea with work, he likes to put on Pornhub.ke or whatever it is for Korea, because he wants to watch the native porn and all this kind of stuff. And I was in Sweden, I'm on Pornhub.sw. I don't even know what it is. I'm that ignorant. But there's things around that as well, isn't there? Like I can totally understand that it makes you more and want more and more extremity within it. Definitely. One thing that I would definitely say from speaking to women about it as well is, there's a misconception, I believe, and it might just be around me, but there's a misconception, I believe, that women think that guys are all into that fake look i.e., oh, you watch porn, or you like all those fake boobs and the big lips and like bleached blonde hair, and you're like, no, that's what porn used to be as a standard. You know, there's a lot of different kind of things within porn now, of like homemade porn and amateur porn and all that. There's so many different bloody categories if you go on something like a Pornhub or something, isn't there? Like guys are into such different kind of things. But I think that not women, I think people naturally think of porn. If you thought of porn star, you might think of that fake look. Do you know what I mean? The fake boobs, the this, the that, and I don't think that's necessarily the case with porn now. I think it's multi-layered, as you were kind of alluding to now.
There'd be no Kardashians without porn. How about that?
Yeah, was at the origin of hers.
The biggest so-called influences in this modern generation, they wouldn't really exist without a porno being made. Paris Hilton.
Right. Here's one I think I'd admit to. I would admit that I found this one to be right, especially earlier on in life. Among 27 to 31-year-olds, 19% said they'd suffered premature ejaculation. This is during use of porn, by the way. 31% had difficulty orgasming, and 34% admitted to experiencing erectile dysfunction. So these are virile 27 to 31-year-old guys. I can totally believe that. What do we think? What do you think, Paddy, there?
Say them again.
So they've got guys basically admitting to suffering from whether it be not being able to orgasm, not being able to get it up, or premature ejaculation due to use of pornography. Some quite heavy stats on that.
I suppose at that age, it's again talking about when the real influence, how long social media been going. Are these the lads that the target age where they were? It was like the real time when people were able to actually explore. If that is that the link, because obviously from that age and above, it's going back to what I was saying before, isn't it? So it'd be interesting to know what the stats were for that age. Not that you could actually do it, but you know what I mean. I don't know. I think maybe it's social media's been going on for how long now? The internet's going how long? 20 years?
Yeah. No, more than that. About 30 years-ish, but it's only been heavily used maybe for 20, 25 years, isn't it?
So are they in that sort of that area where things were really starting to open up?
No, I don't know. I think this was a relatively recent study, to be honest. I can certainly associate with things like that. If you're regularly watching porn, if you're regularly getting off from different women, different positions, different settings, different this, and that, and the other, then, and like you were saying, Dalu, if you've already had 2 in a day watching porn, different people, different settings, different experiences, your brain, your eyes have been trained at looking at this and that, then it's very difficult for your partner then to compete with that, isn't it? And I think it does affect us. It does affect us, and there's a lot of people, 31% there saying they have difficulty orgasming. If they're saying that's as a result of watching porn, then I think there is evidence that it trains the brain as well. Our brains get trained to go for that reward, the quickest way to get the reward. We're looking for those endorphins. Our brain is going, well, I found it by doing this, this, and this. It's a totally different way. And I've certainly found from times of absconding and managing use of pornography that my sexual performance has improved. I felt fresher. I felt better. I think you were alluding to that at the start, weren't you, Dalu?
Oh, absolutely, mate. And when I say I used to live a naughty life, mate, really naughty. Like there was a point I was seeing a girl in Birmingham, one in Manchester, and flipping, do you know what I mean? Just out and about. And then on top of that, watching porn all the time. So then, as you say, there was points where I was with a girl and I was just in my bedroom and I couldn't get a hard on. Then I had to be like, oh, babe, should we go in the hallway? And just so to make it a bit risky and dangerous. And suddenly he's up, because that's the fantasy I'd built up in my head about it had to be something dangerous, it had to be something really naughty. Do you know what I mean? And that was like a good year of my life. And I thought, bloody hell, what is wrong? Have I got issues in the bedroom because of this? But anywhere else I could get one. And And when I realized it was because like it's too much pleasure, man. It's too much. It's like you say, everything needs to have balance. You can't just like have you can't expect to work out twice in the morning and then try and run a marathon in the night. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
Of
Absolutely.
course, it's going to affect you if you've knocked one out in the morning and you're knocking one out in the evening, and then I don't know, twice in the morning, and then you come home and then you may not be in the mood with your missus. I guarantee, if you've not knocked those two out in the morning, you'll find the energy. You'll bloody find the energy. You're sitting there.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a bit tired, babe. Oh, hello. Where's he come from?
It's
So
a
the
weird.
interesting one on that. The interesting one on that stat is then if people have actually said that that's what's happened, the psychological impact of that. Is it a problem? Is it a problem that they're saying this is a problem for me, and they don't see that the way to sort it is by cutting right down, and like you said before, that'd be the part psychological element for me.
I've been there, Paddy. Yeah, it's a really good point. I've been there. I'd admit to that. I'd suffered erectile dysfunction. Most of it was to do with nerves because I didn't have a girlfriend until I was in my I'll let you know. I was a late developer. It was a lot of pressure, and most of it was to do with nerves, but it was to do with porn use as well. It definitely was. Exactly the same as what you just said, Dalu. You know, I was with a girl and I'm thinking, you know, this is great, but you know, I can't get to that scenario that I normally do. And I realized my brain's in porn mode. It's in porn mode. It's not working properly.
And then you look at films where, like, say, something about Mary, where well, maybe it's right that I should knock one out, and then the second round I'll last longer. You start believing in all this stuff. Like, learn your own body. Stop listening to people around you. Like, cut down on the porn. If I can give any advice, if I can say anything to any of the listeners, just try and cut it out for this, like, a week. Cut out porn. Don't watch porn. And then, like, if you've got partners, just see what the difference is. Do a comparison,
Totally.
and you'll absolutely feel it. Like, and
Great
thank me later.
advice. Great advice, mate. No, I totally agree. So it's a weird one to bring it back on a metaphor, and I think we're nearly done on this one. We shared some really good stuff, I think. But I had a talk with my lad today who's big time into nature, big time into like animals and conservation and bird watching and like going out for a walk. He's an outdoor boy. He always wants to go out and I'd see this and that. And at the minute, he's on this Fortnite stuff. He's really, really on it to the point where he's like, I don't want to go out. I'm like, no, you still won't get Fortnite. And he's like, no, I just want to chill and watch telly. Then, I'll play it later. You're like, just get that out of your head. Get it out of your head. But it's hard to compete with Fortnite because it's designed to make your brain go, bing, bing, you got someone, well done. Here's a new level. There's some credits for that. Here's some of this. You've got a new skin that no one else has got. You're better than everybody else. Ding, ding, you got someone else. Well done. You're even better. Aren't you fucking brilliant? Bang, bang, bang. And all these things, even the music and everything is designed to make you go, yeah, I'm fucking boss. I'm brilliant. And kids absorb all that. And it's then hard to compete. And this is a kid who would walk down paths and go, look at this bug, look at this. It's a clicker beetle. And if you pick it up, it does this and it bites you and blah, blah, blah. And we take videos of nature and yeah, it's coming back now because we're maintaining it and managing it and not making it an addiction rather than a habit. And we went on a walk, and it was fine and it was good. But it's got to be managed, hasn't it? And it's hard. If you think about your missus or a partner in that situation, it's hard to compete with porn. In that, it's a similar kind of parody or metaphor to the Fortnite to me. It's made to get you to that place quickly and give you all those buzzes and clicks and blah blah blah. And it's really, really hard. But there's so much beauty in the real world. There's so much beauty in a walk to see nature and all that kind of shit. Is the same talk as there's so much beauty in real sex with your missus, with your partner, whoever it might be. There's so much textures and layers. There's parts of their body you've probably not appreciated. There's ways that you could do different things in so many different settings and blah blah blah. I could show you some videos if you need to, but
It's like,
But there is so much still to be learned about your partner. It's a shame to waste it all on porn. And I just think, let's manage that use. If we use it, we use it. But
the difficulty is at that age, they don't know, they're still learning. That's the difficulty. It's only when, and as you said before, in my eyes, there's no comparison. Because like you say, you can say what you say about being programmed to think about that, and that's what I'm going to do, and that's what's going to give me. But if I'm just lying there and all of a sudden that goes on the that when you know what's happening there and you think, oh, hello, you don't even need to worry about it. And I think that's they'll only learn that, kids will only learn that as they grow older and get into their own relationships themselves. And that's the difficulties. What do you do now in that, trying to keep things reined in? And it's just education, isn't it? Education and helping them to make good, healthy choices.
Absolutely, Paddy. Yeah. And I think a lot of it goes back to low self-esteem. So for me, it wasn't necessarily that porn was the problem. It was my low self-esteem that made me not socialize properly, that maybe not get a girlfriend early enough, or experience things that I probably needed to experience a little bit earlier on, that probably led me to a point where I was vulnerable to things like porn, to things, to other things that were not necessarily good for me. And hopefully, if we build up our self-esteems within our kids, it's what I'm thinking out loud at the minute, that exactly like you said, Paddy, they get that balance. They realise it's not the be-all and end-all, So, yeah, I'm really happy with that, guys. It's been a thing in my life. It's been a habit that we have to control, and I'm glad we've shared some stuff on it there, because I am a bit scared for my boys. I actually am. Yeah, it's a strange world, isn't it? Strange world of it. Right, I'm off to crack one off.
I'm off to try and find a Skoda with a glove compartment.
Any final thoughts? Anybody?
If you can, try and do your best or whatever you do. Peace and love for now.
Yeah.
Well said, mate. See you later,
that.
guys.